Imagine that Donald Trump gets re-elected in 2020. Then, at the end of his term, he decides he wants to keep going. So he gets an amendment passed, allowing for him to run for more terms. But don't worry, this third term is going to be his last, he says. Only, he runs for a fourth term after the third is completed, all the while getting up to 100% of the popular vote due to opposition leaders being jailed for dubious reasons. This is what has happened over the past 20 years in a little country called Djibouti, Africa. Ismail Omar Guelleh, or IOG, is one of the remaining African dictators from the 1990s. He runs one of the most influential and one of the smallest African countries. Located across the Bab al-Mandab Strait from Yemen and bordered by Somalia, Ethiopia, and Eritrea to the southeast, south, and north respectively, Djibouti is an unassuming country that holds billions of dollars in value to various powerful nations. So, what is Djibouti? Besides a very fun name to say, Djibouti is a country that holds a lot of history. Djibouti's prehistory includes geography that was very different from what you'd see today. Freshwater lakes, which no longer exist, allowed settlement and farming back in the early millennia. But by 1500 BC, the climate was changing and the lakes began drying up, forcing a sedentary people to return to nomadic life, which is still a part of life for many Djiboutians today. Djibouti's pre-modern history involves being a part of several kingdoms and sultanates. Due to its proximity to the Arabian Peninsula, the Afar and Somali people, who are the primary ethnic groups in Djibouti today, were some of the first Africans to embrace Islam. This is likely due to the geographic regions being very similar, and thus the teachings of Islam applied to the people better than in other regions. From 1285 to 1867, Djibouti was under direct Islamic rule, either through being part of a sultanate or a part of the Ottoman Empire. Djibouti's modern history starts with the rule of the French and being designated French Somaliland in 1883, one of the regions to be snagged in the scramble for Africa. From the 1880s to the 1960s, France improved its colony, turning its coastal capital city into a boomtown and establishing rail systems that are still being improved upon today. Starting in the 1960s, Djibouti began to want to leave France's protection, first holding a vote to either stay with France or become a part of Somalia. After several referendums like this were held, and were marred by accusations of vote rigging by French officials, the Front for the Liberation of the Somali Coast was established. Their primary activities were armed conflicts with the French military, and in 1977, 10 years after the last independence referendum, French Somaliland gained their independence from France, with almost 99% of the people voting for independence, and thus gaining the name of Djibouti. This begs the question, who is a Djiboutian? Well, a Djiboutian is likely to be a member of the Afar or Somali ethnic group, as they make up 95% of the country's population. The other 5% is made up by Yemeni Arabs, Ethiopians, and French Europeans. What is interesting about the typical Djiboutian you would meet in Djibouti City, or even the desert, is that they are multilingual, speaking French, Arabic, English, and either Somali or Afar. About 60% of the population lives in Djibouti City, another 100,000 or so people live in various towns across the nation, and the rest are pastoralists, who live in the mountains and deserts, herding goats, camels, and other desert wildlife. Now that we know who a Djiboutian is and how Djibouti even came to be, why care? Why should we care about Ismail Omar Guelleh? And why should we care about the Djiboutian? Well, like it or not, it's very likely that your country cares very much about Djibouti. Djibouti houses the French, American, Italian, German, British, Australian, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese militaries, all of whom are very interested in the safety that Djibouti promises in an extremely unstable region. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent creating and improving Djibouti's 3 ports. As Djibouti is one of the safest ways into Africa from the Horn, and is strategically located at the mouth of the Red Sea, it is essential for global players to maintain their grasp on the small nation. China and Japan's only overseas military bases are located in Djibouti, and America re-signed their lease for Camp Lemonnier for another 20 years in 2014. China has also taken the time to build a water pipeline from Ethiopia to major Djiboutian cities, which could threaten a monopoly on potable water in the future. In short, lots of countries spend lots of money to hold power in a region that is both rich in natural resources and one of the most unstable regions in the world. A strategic and economic necessity if anyone is going to crack open that chest that is the Horn of Africa. Some of you may be asking, why do I care about Djibouti? Well, I deployed to Djibouti, and I spent 9 months on the base, the city, and the desert, interacting with various Djiboutians from all walks of life. It is the only other country I've lived in outside of America. And it was a lot of fun to spend the night shift talking to one of the Djiboutian workers about Djibouti, their life, and what their dreams were. One Djiboutian said he wanted to save up enough money to move to Minnesota. And although I know many Somalis have moved to Minnesota in search for a better life, I don't think anyone told him that it was very cold there. As he was telling me about his dream while wrapped up in a scarf and hoodie in the very chilly 75-degree Djiboutian winter night. It was very interesting to be driving in Djibouti City and seeing the sheet metal slums not unlike the favelas in Brazil, where you know dwell the poorest of the poor, as it wasn't like the Djiboutian base workers were making very much either. To see a dead camel on the side of the road is just something so outside the realm of possibility in America that it was the event that made me realize I wasn't in America anymore. The fresh French pastries, camel dealerships, and buses stuffed so full of Djiboutians that some elected to just hang off the side for the ride also made for a distinct experience you would be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. Although I hated being stuck on the base for 95% of the deployment, it was the 5% that made the whole ordeal worth it. And in terms of where I could have been deployed to, I suppose Djibouti comes out on top of all the places that will get you combat pay. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. This has been my dream for a little while to start making YouTube videos, and this is the first one that I've made with my voice and my creative direction over it, and it feels really good to have made. Thank you for coming all the way here, and I promise there's going to be way better videos coming out in the future, so stay tuned.